One of the most anticipated events and not just fights in all of One Piece is Zoro versus Mihawk. This battle has been set up for more than 1,000 chapters now, with every time Zoro gets a new power up, the fight comes nearer. Now that we are in the final saga, the fight is closer than it's ever been. But with the recent events in the Egghead arc, and after the abolishment of the Seven Warlord system, there is a big question in the One Piece community. When will Mihawk and Zoro fight? Will it happen on the road to the One Piece, meaning before Laugh Tale, before the final island? Or will it happen in the final war, which may come after Laugh Tale? No matter what you think comes first, no one in the One Piece fanbase can tell when the fight will happen. All of the community has their own idea, but no one can say that their idea, where they think this battle will happen, is going to satisfy the fans and the story and live up to the hype. The two other matchups which are sure to happen are Luffy's fight against Blackbeard and Luffy's fight against the King of the World, who probably is the final boss, Emu. These two fights can still be placed even after all the revelations we have had in the recent chapters. They have not been affected, not in terms of hype or story or narrative, but Zoro versus Mihawk has been, heavily since the abolishment of the Seven Warlord system. You see, if Zoro vs Mihawk isn't Zoro's final fight, for some fans, this hyped up battle loses its value, as Zoro's dream isn't the greatest and the final hurdle he faces in the story. And Mihawk as a powerhouse, Mihawk's hype as a character also suffers. But also if it happens during the final war, that wouldn't make sense, as Zoro will never leave Luffy and put his dream above his captain's dream. The one who creates this problem is Mihawk. You see, after the abolition of the Seven Warlord system, Mihawk's ties with the world government ended. Any hope of Mihawk vs Zoro in the final war happening based on the situation in the manga changed, and after he ended up on the Cross Guild, the possibility of Mihawk vs Zoro happening even before the Blackbeard fight has increased significantly, contributing to the worry of the fans in the community that Mihawk vs Zoro, the most hyped up fight in the series, may be only second to Luffy's final battles, not living up to the hype. Well, I have a theory of how Mihawk vs Zoro will live up to its hype, and the answer is Saint Figarland Garling and Mihawk's character. Most fans consider Mihawk to be a plot tool or just a character that will, writing wise, never enter top 10 characters in One Piece, something where he surely loses to Shanks. Well, I seem to disagree. Mihawk's past and the result of what Buggy's declaration for the One Piece is going to do to the One Piece world, to the story, might answer that question. Buggy's declaration will automatically force Mihawk's hand, and which will then end up with a confrontation of the four emperors on Lodestar. Most of the fan base who have an opinion on it seem to think the confrontation of the four emperors will happen on Laugh Tale, but I think it will be going down at Lodestar, the island that comes before Laugh Tale. Let me remind you real quick, this theory only works if you think Emu is the final boss and not Blackbeard. So continuing, the confrontation will lead to a victory of the Straw Hats and Blackbeard pirates, who will then both sail towards Laugh Tale, and the fight will conclude there with the finding of the One Piece and the true history which will lead to the final war eventually. Mihawk, in this confrontation of the four emperors, eventually will come to realize the hints of which he had seen before and was impressed by. Zoro's dream means less to Zoro than whatever Luffy's does. Zoro's dream holds less meaning to Zoro than Luffy. Whatever Luffy does, whatever Luffy's decision is at any single moment, or Luffy's dream is more important to Zoro than Zoro's own dream. Which will make one thing clear to Mihawk. Zoro will only fight at his best when he is fighting for his captain. And Zoro will, one, not leave Luffy's side in the final war to have a separate fight with Mihawk, because that just doesn't make sense. And even if he does, he won't be fighting Zoro at his best, as Zoro doesn't fight at his best when he isn't fighting for Luffy. And Mihawk has always sought a great opponent who can give him the fight that he has wanted since his old rival Shanks lost his arm. which is why I think Mihawk, after the Cross Guild fails in the race for the One Piece, will not only join the world government side but the Holy Knights, which brings us to Mihawk's character, his past, and Saint Figarland. Mihawk has long been connected to Emu because of his eyes. I don't really think much of the theory, so this video is not really going to be focusing on that. But I do believe there is a connection Mihawk has with Emu. I think Mihawk is from the Nerona family, same family from which Emu hails, and he is the last survivor. He was supposed to join the Holy Knights, or he was already a part of it, and was supposed to succeed Figarland as the commander, as Shanks had been kidnapped. But as he always heard of this kid who was supposed to be here in his place, he decides to seek him, find out for himself just who this kid is, which would then eventually result in the great duels Whitebeard talked about, which changed Mihawk's entire outlook on strength. Not because Shanks was stronger or anything like that, but because Shanks is seeking something greater than himself. The strength Shanks has isn't for being simply strong, but for a greater role. Mihawk, who for all his life has known strength for what strength is, and the right to superiority over others due to being a celestial dragon, seeing Shanks changes him. Mihawk wants to understand what could be greater than seeking strength for the sake of superiority, and he sees that in Zoro, and that he sees twice. The first time he considers Zoro strong is when Zoro doesn't back down in his fight, because Mihawk still considers seeking strength for being stronger than other people a symbol of superiority. He hasn't changed yet, but he is then surprised by Zoro's dedication to not be defeated again for Luffy, not for himself, but for Luffy, and that happens again when Zoro asks Mihawk for training for Luffy's sake, not for himself. Zoro, the man with so much pride, begging for guidance from his arch nemesis, not for himself, he would never do that, but for his captain. That's the strength Mihawk wants to understand, because he saw the same strength in Shanks, and he can only understand that when he fights someone like Zoro at his full strength, at his full potential, like Shanks at his full strength. And the reason he refuses to fight Shanks now is because Shanks lost an arm, and Mihawk still obviously considers his old idea of strength right. He just wants to understand this new one. He just wants to understand what impact, why do people follow this idea. And when he finally, after seeing that Zoro is following Luffy to Laugh Tale, when his dream Mihawk is right in front of him, he can fight him. He can have that duel right then and there on Lotus Star. But Zoro chooses to follow Luffy and not fight Mihawk on Lotus Star. He understands that he won't be able to fight Zoro at his best if he isn't standing in Luffy's way. If Mihawk doesn't stand in Luffy's way, in whatever Luffy's dream is, Zoro will never fight. He will never have that battle with Zoro when Zoro is at his best. As he plans on how to make that possible, as he doesn't know that a final war will happen, that a final war is going to happen, where Holy Knights are between Luffy's objective, Saint Figarland will come to the story. To apprehend Mihawk so that he joins the Holy Knights again, as the war, the final battle, is inevitable now, as Blackbeard and the Straw Hat Pirates have both gone to Laugh Tale, which Mihawk would obviously decline. Mihawk would decline the offer of joining the Holy Knights. The battle between Saint Figarland and Mihawk will then happen, of course, as to if Figarland will die here or if it's a stalemate between the two, I don't know. But I do believe that one of the God's Knights will have to die to make the number of Holy Knights 9 again to match the Straw Hats. And I believe that would be Garling. That would have to be Garling. He is old, his era is gone, just like Garp. Now I'm not ready to make the claim that who he will die to, that if Mihawk kills him, who knows, but which would of course make Mihawk, after joining Holy Knights, the leader of the Holy Knights, the supreme commander, and the second strongest after Emu for the world government in the final war, and an obstacle for Luffy, just like King was, just like Mr. One was, just like Kaku was, just like Ika was. fulfilling Mihawk's wish of fighting Zoro at his best, fulfilling the requirement of Mihawk being Zoro's final fight and Mihawk versus Zoro not being ruined for the story or even for the fans. It would obviously make the One Piece final saga even better, Zoro's character even better, and the overall story just better. And I think this is going to be the case. I think Mihawk is going to be the character through whom Oda explores this concept of not understanding what an idea means, which would also reveal to us as to why Mihawk lives alone. He has nothing to pass on to the next generation, no idea, nothing. He is shallow. Through him, Oda can explore the concept of the other strength that is greater than what Mihawk has right now, because Mihawk is strong. Mihawk considers this strength. I am again saying this because when he sees that Zoro's dedication for attaining strength, he calls him strong. He calls Zoro strong. But what impresses him about Zoro is his dedication to Luffy after that. Not his dedication to become the strongest sportsman in the world, but his dedication to Luffy's dream is what impresses Mihawk the most. And I think he's going to be an amazing character. He's probably going to be the most surprising character that we have in One Piece. I mean, ironically, one of the most hyped up characters in the story is going to turn out to be a surprise. And through Mihawk, Oda is going to explore the concept of a character who wants to understand inherited will, but he can't grasp it. Hiruluk, Roger, Whitebeard, Odin, all of them gave something to the next generation, an idea that still lives on even after they are dead, so they aren't really dead. But Mihawk, when he dies, when he is taken out of the equation, what has he given to the world? That's the strength Mihawk wants to understand, because that's the strength Shanks is fighting for. Zoro is fighting for something bigger than his own dream. Mihawk wants to understand that strength. And I think Oda is going to explore that concept through Mihawk, which is going to be amazing. And Mihawk might just end up being top 10 best written characters in One Piece at the end of the story. And top 10 best written One Piece characters when One Piece is done is quite an achievement for someone who we just thought to be a plot tool. So that's all for this one. Like, comment and subscribe. And if you didn't like the video for some reason, please at least give me the feedback so I can make myself better. I am new to this, new to pretty much everything that has to do with making content on YouTube. So that would be appreciated. Don't give me a like, don't give me a share, but just comment that how I can be better. Thank you.